detectors don't catch everything, is that what we're saying? Okay.
I don't already feel unsafe, and the TSA, like that kind of thing stresses me out, so I don't think that.
We do not want to stress you
Taking
out.
my shoes off, like,
Right.
that's.
Plus, if it's a logistical nightmare, right? Somebody pulls a fire alarm, we have to evacuate the building. Now I got to screen all of you guys on the way back in, right?
Steph mentioned, like when we were in school, we didn't deal with this. Do you all feel like this is just the new norm currently moving forward, that this has just become our new norm?
I think the more that they display it on the media, and the more that people see it, and the more people that are not mentally stable, if they see that, they just see it as fame, and like negative attention is better than no attention at all. So people are just going to continue to act out the same way.
I'm curious if you can remember how old you were, like the first school shooting that you heard of. Because as Mrs. Crosby was saying, it is kind of always been part of your world. But do you remember, like, were you in elementary school and you realized it, or was it not until you got to high school that you started going, oh, this is happening?
I remember Sandy Hook in elementary school.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Fifth grade, right?
Yeah, and I was like going home from school, and my mom was driving, and she was like tearing up, and like my mom does not cry; she has no emotion. And she was, she was like crying,
Wow.
and I was like, but I was like, Mom, like what's wrong? Like what's happening? And she was like, looking at like articles and stuff, and she explained to me that there was a shooter, and I was in 5th grade, and I was just so confused, and she was like, because she was trying to like. She was just distressed, and she was like trying to figure out if she should tell me what I should do. Like it was just a weird situation that I had never been exposed to before. So I just remember, and it made me cry. I remember I was like looking out the window, and I was like, but it was just an odd emotional experience.
I can't remember when I was younger the first time I heard about school shooting, but I can remember, I think it was either like end of junior high or beginning of high school, when I think kind of how like you were talking about, I realized they were more normal, like it was happening more than I thought it was. I think like the older I got, the more I didn't think about it as much because I saw it so much on like social media and on the news and stuff. It just became more regular. That's something that we would have to deal with.
I feel like shootings have just become this systematic thing where they happen.
Right.
People are sad, then people spread awareness, march for our lives,
And
things like that, and then another shooting happens, and then it just repeats over and over.
There was, we discussed arming teachers or arming administrators and whether that's a good or a bad idea. And I feel like most of you said that maybe not so much. We like having Officer Hart because he's trained, he's a law enforcement officer. He has a weapon, he knows how to use the weapon. There's an expectation that he carries that and maintains that. We don't necessarily think Mr. Perkins would be a great choice. I won't tell him that, we'll just tell him. But what about other things? What about other options that we would have? Again, in my campus operations role, one of the things that was presented to me is maybe having some stations. You mentioned like a pull station, like a fire station. Having maybe something similar to that. It's a box on the wall that would have like pepper spray in it, or a canister of something, where if there was a situation, somebody could help address that. A non-lethal, but certainly a deterrent, right? Do you ladies think that something like that would be a great option to have, where if I go out, because right now if there's a fire, I can go out in the hallway, I can pull the fire extinguisher, right? And I could maybe make some difference, or at least delay that fire so people could escape. But having something like a pepper spray canister in a secured armed box in the hallway, would that be something that you ladies would be in favor of?
Yeah, I think I would like that.
Yeah.
What if it's secure? Like anyone can get to a fire extinguisher, right?
That's a great question.
So say like someone is angry and they weren't gonna escalate to the point of a school shooting, but they're really mad right now. If they can like access some pepper spray, that might not be a good idea.
That is a great thought. So what if somebody else pulls that, right? I think a lot of these stations, if you pull it, it sets off an alarm. So you would get some audible alarm, like a fire. So it's not like somebody just grabbed it and stuck it in their bag and I'm going to use that later, nobody knows I took it, right? It would set off an alarm. But to your point, do we have concerns then that could be used, maybe not in a proactive way?
I feel like at our school that wouldn't be that big of an issue, just because of the nature of our students. But
And I think personally, I'd rather take the chance and have the pepper spray in the hallway. Like if someone's going to take it out and spray them with it, that would not be great. But I would rather have it there just in case something were to happen.
Right.
yeah, if someone took it out and sprayed a student, well, that student will go wash their eyes out.
Yeah,
like,
it's an
another
issue,
student will
but
get
I'd rather
suspended
have
or
it there
expelled.
for
Right, so more positives than
You could
negatives in that
yeah,
situation?
Yes, but you could prevent a mass murder with it, so.
Yeah.
Right, so that would be something you guys would advocate for, is having a solution like that available. What's that?
I said, wait, you've got a gun and
Let me grab
let me
my
break
pepper
this
spray.
open and grab some pepper
It's
spray.
better than throwing a stickler at their head,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I would think so,
And I do know a lot of students that have pepper spray on their car keys,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure are teachers allowed to have pepper spray if they want it?
I think we have teachers that have a baseball bat or something.
Yeah,
So.
Miss Perkins has a bat, I'm pretty sure.
Mr. Sisk has a bat in his
Yeah.
office.
Do you all, and I'm just asking this because I don't know the answer. Do you have different alarms that go off for like the threat? So if it's a fire alarm, you know the fire alarm sound and the, I didn't,
For like a lockdown?
yeah, for like a lockdown, there's a
The announcement.
differentiation.
It's an announcement. It's a, we are now under lockdown. It's not like a, yeah.
See, I find that interesting because if somebody comes into the school, say from the outside, they possibly could come through the front door and something could happen immediately up front where that announcement couldn't be made, where it leaves you all vulnerable, wouldn't you think, without having some sort of separate differentiation?
We have the ability to make that announcement from anywhere.
Okay.
I think another issue that I don't really know how we could fix is the way that we let people into school. Like they buzz in at the front and they come in, but she just says like come in. She doesn't say go to the office. So if it's like a shooter, they just walk in. What if they walk to the left to the science hallway, or like just walk past the office? Like,
Does she even like? Does she ever?
does she have a camera?
someone-
Is she able?
She
to?
does.
Yes.
But they don't act, they don't really, she just,
Does she ever like?
like I was in there
let
yesterday and
someone
was like listening. No.
That's a good question. She does let them in, and if they do not go to the office, then she alerts the safety response team to come and address them. We've had that happen as well, yes. What in your research did you guys come across as far as safety measures or response measures to school shootings or anything else that you thought was novel, maybe that you hadn't considered before, something that we're not doing that you think could make a difference in our school system?
In LCA specifically?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For public schools, that's fine as well.
For public schools, I don't know if we need this here, but for public schools, I like the no backpacks.
Okay.
Or, they said see-through backpacks, but I feel like no backpacks is just easier, because most public schools or some public schools I know, they keep their textbooks in their classroom anyway. Like it's a class copy, not a personal copy, so they're not like us where we each have our individual textbooks. So I don't see an issue with saying don't bring a backpack. You can carry your calculator, pencil, or your keys.
I think that's the best option. I think it would be a pain. I wouldn't want to deal with it, but I do think it's a really good option.
I think also it could affect like drug usage.
Yeah.
Because if students don't have a backpack where they can put their whatever drugs they want to do, put their weed, whatever. Like if they don't have a backpack to hide that, and
Hey, but we're gonna have a longer conversation over this.
But I just think if
Right.
they don't have a backpack, it would decrease that. But
If you all have lockers, right? Can't you keep your books in your locker so then you wouldn't need a backpack, right? You just go in between classes and get your
Yeah.
book,
But
was that,
I bring a lot of stuff home,
okay?
and I'd be like, this much stuff.
We're getting a lot of discussion back here.
Yeah.
We've hit on a hot topic apparently. Okay. So see-through backpacks an option or no backpacks is an option?
I would not want no backpacks. But public schools that have violence, it would be beneficial for them, I think.
Yeah, I think somebody touched on this earlier. What about safety training for students and optional training? You know, if we had a self-defense
I would love that.
course
I would
or
take
something
it.
like that, and, you know, maybe Coach Ray or somebody
Yeah.
would offer something like that?
We did a small segment of self-defense, was it freshman year?
In PE.
PE. We did
PE
a small
class, okay.
segment. I think you could make it a bigger unit.
I took gym at a public school, and we didn't do anything with that. And I think it would be a good idea, because I've always wanted to take a self-defense class, but, I mean, it's like time and stuff, so if we could do it at school, that would be good.
Make it part of PE, because we have to take PE. So.
Yeah. But the issue with that is that it's required, so some students that do not want to do it at all, they would.
If
I
you
think
just call my
having
next
it
question.
as
Okay,
a
go.
one semester elective, just like how we have physical wellness. It could be part of physical wellness, or it could be like just a separate thing.
I personally think, my mom told me, this was like on a different subject, but at my mom's high school when she was growing up, everyone, you were required to take sex education, but if your parent didn't want you to be part of that, they could sign off for you not to take it. I think it should be more like that. Everyone should take the self-defense, but if it's really that big of an issue and you don't want to do it, then your parent can sign off and you don't take it.
What if it was offered after school, something that, you know, hey, once a semester we have a self-defense
Yeah.
class, or twice a
That
semester?
would be great.
I would like that. I know Henry Clay, they do like a 1 hour before school yoga, something like that, but self-defense.
Self-defense yoga, I don't know. It's a big thing, right? That's it, right? Okay. But if the school was to offer something like that, you think that would be something that would be?
I would take part in it. Oh, yeah.
What if there was cost associated with it? I'm doing some customer. That's right. Okay.
That would maybe deter me a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You have to put money out, okay.
I don't know how much it would deter me, but, because my mom's always wanted me to take a self-defense class, but I think some kids it definitely would deter me. Like if you're gonna pay for it, they'd be like,
Is there anything you all learned during your course of doing your research that was like maybe a fact or something that shocked you, or did it or something that may have changed your opinion on this matter?
Well, I thought it was really interesting that I found out that school shooters will usually tell someone before they do it, or they'll make a post on social media. I really thought that they wouldn't do that,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't get caught, but it's very often.
yeah, I think the biggest thing was the amount of signs that there were. I didn't know there was like the social media stuff. I didn't know that many people had actually posted stuff before.